What's up, YouTubers? Red Crimson 102. Hey, I just want to let you guys know, and I'm real excited. With all this talk about the new consoles that are coming out this year and the Switch Pro that's coming out next year, nobody would ever think that Nintendo is working on another console. Let me say, I'm the first to report that Nintendo is actually still making consoles. And I've been telling people that for a long time. A lot of people think that, oh, Nintendo, they're going to stick with a handheld. They can't compete with Sony. That's a lie. Nintendo single handedly saved the gaming industry years back. They still have more talent than Sony and Microsoft put together. And you guys don't have to quote me on that, but I'm just going with facts. Sony could never knock Nintendo out. They can't. As much copying as they do from Nintendo. But guys, that's real huge news. Nintendo is coming out with another system. I'm so excited. The Switch is cool. I love the Switch. It's my favorite system this generation. But I said to myself, you know what? Nintendo actually needs to get back in the consoles and make a powerful console and go head to head with Xbox and PlayStation. And they can do it. They have the money, they have the talent, they definitely have the IPs. Um, as you can see right here, guys, it says Nintendo Switch successor will release 2100. Nintendo confirms it's working on new hardware, but we only have the widest window of when it may be released. This should be no surprise, no one, but Nintendo is not going to exit the hardware business anytime soon. As part of the company's latest corporate management briefing, the firm revealed that it's working on new hardware and that it will be released before the end of the century, which is to say by 2099 or earlier. That's funny. A slide confirms that Nintendo's next gaming system will launch sometime in 20XX, which means it will be released before the year 2100. Realistically, whatever this system ends up being, it will surely be released long before the end of the century, but Nintendo isn't ready to commit to any dates. You can check out the graphic below and note the amusing fact that Nintendo decided to completely omit the Wii U. That console sold a relatively meager 13.56 million units. This made it the worst selling console Nintendo ever made, which the expectation of the Virtual Boy. However, the system's failure ultimately led to the Switch, which outsold its predecessor in 10 months. That's quite the comeback. The 3DS has completely discontinued as of last week. The only Nintendo system still in production are the Switch and the Switch Lite, with the Lite essentially acting as its dedicated handheld. The need for a completely separate format seems to be gone. We'll see if that remains the case once Nintendo faces competition from next gen systems. See, guys, I'm not gonna get into all this, but I read the gist of it. You guys see the title. You guys can go ahead and look up the headline and read it for yourself. But I already knew that Nintendo wasn't out of the console business. Nintendo themselves said it years ago. They said the day they stop making consoles is the day they exit the gaming space forever, which makes a lot of sense. And you know, guys like Obi-Wan Plays, not to take a shot at him, but that guy's real wishy-washy. His whole channel is dedicated to Nintendo. He defends Nintendo. Then he comes out with the Xbox 12 is greater than 10 hat, and then now he's a Sony fan. It's like at the drop of the hat, this dude's a fan of said console. Like, in a way, he's kind of a clown to me. Good guy, though, you know what I'm saying? Good guy. I'm not really knocking him, but whatever. I mean, get at me. But, you know, right now, he's riding that Sony horse saying, oh, Sony kicked Microsoft and Nintendo out of the hardware business. No, they didn't. Nintendo never went anywhere. The Switch is a console and a handheld. Yeah, it might be less powerful, but doesn't mean it's not a console. And that was a brilliant idea, and it's a reason why the Switch is selling. And you know, this guy complains about the Switch being 30 FPS and watered down games. watered down ports. I don't know what ports he's playing. A lot of the ports I played on the Switch isn't watered down at all. Like, at least not that much. I mean, it's playable. Graphics looks good enough to me. And why complain about 30 FPS? As console players, we're used to 30 FPS from Nintendo, Super Nintendo, even the Xbox One and PS4. Some games are, a lot of games actually are still 30 FPS. So come on, man. But Nintendo isn't going nowhere. Nintendo is, in my book, the best. You can't knock Nintendo out. Right now, everybody's waiting for Nintendo to make a new console. And if Nintendo can put out a hybrid like the Switch that's underpowered versus competitors and is outselling them on a month-to-month basis, that's imagine if they actually made another console. But see, let's bring it back. Nintendo shot themselves in the foot with the N64. Before the N64, Nintendo had powerful consoles. Their consoles were at least more powerful than the competition or on par. The Super Nintendo was more powerful than the Genesis. The N64 was more powerful than the PS2. And the GameCube, uh, excuse me, the N64 was more powerful than the PS1. And the GameCube was more powerful than the PS2. But the thing is, when Nintendo was giving us powerful consoles, they weren't selling. So what would you do from a business perspective? Remember, Nintendo's a toy company. They're good at creativity to draw people in, right? So when they were giving us those powerful consoles, people weren't buying it. So they took another route. Enter the Wii. The Wii caught everybody by storm. They were the first company to make a gaming console where you didn't need controllers, right? They had motion controllers. Everybody was on it. Even Sony jumped on it, and their little peripheral failed. That encouraged Microsoft. The Wii encouraged Microsoft to make the hands-free Kinect, right? That's how great Nintendo is. People copies off of them. Now, the Wii was a success and a failure at the same time. Yes, it was a success in sales, but failure as a console. Because once people got over the fad of you can only, it's only for like, old people or had a bowling on there and they realize it's not an HD console. You can't play GTA and high caliber games like Call of Duty and 1080p and whatnot. They were watered down compared to the 360 and PS3 versions. People just got rid of it. That's why you go to the thrift store, you see piles and piles of Wii, right? Now, then being Nintendo, sitting around a round table, they looked at the Wii. Oh, 100 million is a success, so we're gonna come out with a Wii U and give you the Wii U is basically like an HD version of the Wii. But Nintendo didn't realize that people really didn't like the Wii to begin with once they found out what it was and they couldn't play the high caliber titles that 360 and PS3 had. So they were riding off of the Wii's Lightning, a system that nobody really liked to begin with. And that's why the Wii U failed. And a lot of people, never mention that. And if you think about it, honestly, guys, after the Wii, if Nintendo had made the Wii U a different console, like the Wii U wasn't called the Wii U, had a different design, it had no association with the Wii name, the branding, I believe that console would have done well. But fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? That's why the Wii U didn't sell. And here's the funny thing: the Switch is basically a handheld Wii U, to be honest with you, but a little bit more powerful, right? But look how much it's selling. So that is going to show you if the Wii U wasn't called, the Wii U was named something else, and didn't have the design of the Wii, it would have done well, you know. And the GameCube, more powerful than the PS2, right? But this is when Nintendo shot themselves in the foot again. And don't get me wrong, the GameCube was Nintendo's last hardcore system. They really tried with that system. I mean, they made third-party deals with Capcom, Resident Evil was exclusive to their system for a while. They came out with Beautiful Joe. A few IPs were born and exclusive to the GameCube, but it didn't sell well. Why? First of all, even though I love the GameCube, love it, but it had a kiddie design, a kiddie controller, small D-pad that's meant for a child, and colorful buttons, and then missing one shoulder button. And at the time, it didn't have a DVD player, which the DVD player is what pushed PS2 sales in the beginning, before the games. So that's where Nintendo messed up. If Nintendo had came with the GameCube, gave it a better name, a better design, a more mature design, with the console and the controller itself and a DVD player, they probably would have redeemed themselves. But they shot themselves in the foot again. And y'all know the disaster with the Wii U. So this is what I can promise you guys. If Nintendo actually comes out with a console that's native 4K and that's on the same power level as the Series X or even the PS5 with good online messaging, party chat and achievements, and reach out to companies for exclusive deals on new IPs, timed exclusive even, and not to mention open up more first party studios and second party studios to push out more mature games and to take their own titles, own first party Nintendo titles, and make them mature. Meaning, I would love to see a dark Mario where Mario and the cast can talk. Mario's buff has muscles. Kid Icarus. I like that. I love Kid Icarus. Why not give us a new Icarus game instead of calling it Kid Icarus? Just call it Icarus, where he's fully grown. Make it a darker theme game. Just take all their franchises and make them dark. Even if they can't do it themselves, get a second party studio to do it for them. Take Star Fox, give it a more realistic. Well, Star Fox has a nice look to it anyway, but I would take Pokemon and turn Pokemon dark, like give it a Monster Hunter look. Take all their first party IPs and just make them dark. Give it a new, fresh coat of paint, and rebrand the Nintendo logo just for that one system. Just do a full rebranding of the company and make it more mature. They can actually take it back, and I don't know what's taking them so long. But the thing is, Nintendo's other problem is the leadership. Like, you have old people running Nintendo. They're not forward thinking. Nintendo needs like some young blood. They need a young CEO, a young president that can drive the company forward. Like, hey, why don't we do what Sony and Microsoft is doing with the achievements, the mature titles, the opening new studios to make mature games, sports games. Well, sports games. I don't like sports games. RPG games and adventure games, whatever category of games. That's what Nintendo needs to do. I miss the old Nintendo, and people praise Sony so much. Cool. I tip my hat off to Sony because Sony came into the game and made everybody step their game up, even Nintendo. They shook the whole gaming industry up. And kudos to Sony, man. Not a big Sony fan, but I have to give respect where respect is due. They make good consoles and they make very good games. I have all Sony systems. So Nintendo just needs to rebrand themselves. That's what I think they need to do. But if they're going to come back into the console space, they're going to have to do it right. They can't cut corners. They're going to have to give us, like I said before, great online messages, party chat, all that. They're going to have to give us everything. New studios to make new IPs and more mature games. I want to see a more mature Nintendo. That's what they need to do, and they'll be alright. So, but if they're not gonna step their game up and make those changes, then I don't think they should get back into the console business. They should just keep doing what they're doing. But if they're gonna come out another console, they're gonna have to play on the console level, which is a power level. And Nintendo back in the days was pushing the whole power theme. Remember Nintendo Power? They had the silicon graphics of their games. I mean, Nintendo, they were technically advanced at the time. They did so much experimenting. Even the Super Nintendo in Japan had the little internet connection, the internet cartridge. Like Nintendo, I don't know what's up with Nintendo, but anyway, guys, I've been going on. I've been ranting for a good while now. But you guys see the title. You can go ahead and look that up yourself and read into it. Um, I'm excited that Nintendo is coming out with another console, and I know they never get a console business up. They were just experimenting, trying something new. And now that they attracted everybody with the Switch, this is the perfect time for Nintendo to actually come back with a console now, because everybody's so used to PlayStation and Xbox with consoles. Now it's Nintendo's turn to come out with a console. I want to see them come out with a 4K console, man, and just blow everybody out of the water. I know they can do it. If they can do it with a handheld, they can do it with another console. But it has to be done right. Can't cut corners. And, you know, back in the days, you know, who had a DVD player and Blu-ray player, you know, that console was determined the winner. Look at the PS2. But nowadays, things change drastically. People don't even really use their consoles to watch a Blu-ray movies anyhow nowadays. It's all about streaming now. So I guess Nintendo can actually get away with coming out with a console that doesn't have a ultra Blu-ray player in there. But honestly, I think they should just have one, just because, you know, I mean, they never really had a DVD player in any of their systems. So I think this time, man, Nintendo should say, you know what? We have an ultra Blu-ray player, you know, a new console. We have everything, all the bells and whistles. And on top of that, gonna have the games. They'll be alright. But yeah, guys, the first person on YouTube to actually let y'all know that Nintendo is coming out with another console. And notice how they put the 2100. We'd probably be dead by then, but I think Nintendo's just being sarcastic. They're just letting you know that we're not gonna let you know when we're coming out with a system. Nintendo's very secretive. I like that about them. But yeah, guys, tell me what you think about Nintendo coming out with a new system. Still interested in the console business, and they're here to stay with the consoles. What do you guys think about that? And do you think Nintendo should just chill, stick to the excuse me, you think they should just chill out with the consoles and stick to the handheld hybrid Switch idea, or should they also come out with a console? I remember, guys, not because they're going to make another console doesn't mean that they're going to stop making handhelds and they're going to not support the Switch anymore and still make future Switch systems. They're going to do it just like the Game Boy. They're going to have a system and a handheld. So if they make a new system, they're still going to have a handheld to support it, whether it be a new Game Boy, a new DS, or a new Switch. But tell me what you guys think about Nintendo thinking about making a new console. And don't forget to like and subscribe so I can bring you more news, more up-to-date news. You know, I still do my unboxing and stuff like that. Red Crimson 102 out. Hit that subscribe button.